Yes, it does. It is a pleasure to be here today. Usually the comments start with, are there any messages from the mayor? And for the last 8 years, it's been a real pleasure when the mayor has come and spoken, and it's a pleasure to be here with all of you today. Before I talk about the next 4 years that are ahead of us, I did want to just offer my condolences to Councilman Colby Sledge, and his mother-in-law passed away today, so I just wanted you to know that we're thinking about you and Lindsay and your family. I also want you to know that we really appreciate all the help that we had when we had a flood back in 2010. Many of you may remember that. So I wanted to just let you know that we have actually sent some of our swift water rescue teams to Columbia, South Carolina this week. The Nashville Fire Department, the Office of Emergency Management, and they sent 15 responders, 2 rescue boats, and other equipment to help with the flooding there. I know that we're all thinking about the people there, and I know how grateful we were when we had a flood and people reached out to us. I want to thank Vice Mayor Briley for welcoming me here. I want to thank all of you for what you're about to embark on for the next 4 years. You've stepped up to serve our community, and all of you will work incredibly hard, and I hope, like you and like I had the experience, that you will find it incredibly rewarding. I sat actually for the last 4 years where we have John Cooper sitting, and it was my experience, Councilman, that the cameras don't come over that far. So you may want to get closer to Council Lady Gilmore when you want to speak, or at least wave your hand. Tonight you all are going to consider many pieces of legislation, and that's going to be the beginning of many, many meetings. And there is one action before you this evening that I want you to consider, and that is the nomination of John Cooper to be the next Metro Law Director and to hopefully approve his nomination. I hope you'll do so. I've asked John to join my administration. He has been incredibly important, and he will faithfully implement the laws that we have passed over the last several years and all the laws that you all will pass in the future. John will still be here with you on the first and third Tuesdays. He'll just be in a different seat if you approve him. I also want to thank you for letting me take Elise Waller as my executive assistant into the mayor's office. I relied incredibly on Elise's knowledge when I was in the council, and I look forward to working with her in my new role. As I said at our swearing in, because it was our swearing in on September 25th, I'm not going to govern alone. I look at all of you as strong allies in the progress that we need to make for Nashville. I'm going to rely on all of you in the coming months and the years together as we find that common agenda and that common goal for the city of Nashville. I have begun my meetings with several of you, and I know several more of you are on the books for those conversations. One of the issues that was much talked about, I know, while I was on the council and while many of you were on the campaign trail, was the lack of sidewalks in your districts. And many of you know that our city's strategic sidewalk plan has not been updated since 2008. We need to update that plan. My administration has already directed Metro Public Works to immediately start undertaking a thorough update so we can develop the best sidewalk plan for our city going forward, and I want to thank Public Works for doing that. There are many other issues that are going to come down the pike that are going to require our joint efforts. Last week, you received a letter from me discussing the need to postpone the implementation of the new guidelines related to the local hire amendment that voters just approved. We did that. It was not in opposition to the amendment. It was actually quite the opposite. It is because I believe that we want Davidson County to succeed in our mission to hire and train more workers for jobs that are funded by our taxpayer dollars, and we have to get that implementation right. That's why I want to engage all of you in this process by crafting the rules and guidelines necessary that we need for that charter amendment to be effective. At the same time, we have to make sure that we're not hindering our ability as a city to move forward on the important projects that we have, like building new schools and new infrastructure. And when we think about what I think is going to be important for us, it is that we can become a model for how other urban cities address these issues of unemployment, underemployment, and poverty, and this is a good first step. With this work, we can empower our citizens to improve their lives in long-lasting ways. There are other places I need your support. Appointments to boards and commissions are key, and I welcome your ideas about the constituents that you have in mind. Oftentimes, people don't realize that they're qualified or even know about boards and commissions, so I'll rely on each of you to provide names for me. I want to make sure that our boards and commissions reflect the great diversity that our city has, and we find the smartest minds to help with that. As we go forward, please give those names to me. I don't want to take up too much of your time. I know you're very eager to get down to the business of governing, so I'm going to leave you with this. Nashville has exciting times ahead of us. I think we can work together for our common challenges, and I think we can exceed our shared goals. We can build a better quality of life for all Nashvillians. After all, that is what the voters of Davidson County sent us here to do. So thank you so much for your time this evening, and thank you for inviting me.
I'm going to go ahead. Without objection, we will suspend the calling of the roll and ask the clerk to record the names of those members present during the course of the meeting. Councilman Schulman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that the council adopt the 2011-2015 rules of procedure in place at the end of the previous council term as the temporary rules of procedure for the Metropolitan Council until such time as the 2015 through 2019 permanent rules are adopted by the council. And I would move that with a brief explanation.
Mr. Schulman.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. All this simply does is give us rules, temporary rules to govern ourselves under. They are in everyone's packet. We have 60 days to adopt a new set of rules. We will be working on at the Rules Committee. If other members of the council have suggestions, please let us know. But this gives us the ability to function for the next 60 days. And I would renew my motion.
Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? The motion carries. Councilman Schulman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would move that the council adopt the following time for its regular scheduled meetings. The council shall meet on the first and third Tuesdays of each month at 6:30 p.m.
Is there a second? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Councilman Schulman, is there a report from the Rules and Confirmations Committee?
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. There is a report. So, Mr. Vice Mayor, members of the council, as you just heard, the mayor has selected as the new Director of Law, Mr. John Cooper, who has been the council's legal director. The mayor obviously requested that we approve that selection. Mr. Cooper went before the Rules Committee, and he met the two requirements that are required of the law director in the charter. One is 5 years of service in the practice of law, and one is 5 years of being a resident of Davidson County. I will tell you that the committee gave Mr. Cooper a very, very difficult time. We tried to make it very uncomfortable for him. We tried to remove his chair. But I will tell you this, Mr. Cooper has served this council and this city with professionalism, with distinction. We are going to miss him, even though he's going to be sitting here. And I think people will understand what I mean. He has a wealth of knowledge. He's an exceptional pick by the mayor, and I hate to see him go. But I will tell you that the Rules Committee unanimously adopted 8-0 his approval as the new Metro Legal Director of Law, and I would move for approval.
Is there any discussion? All those in favor state aye. Aye. All those opposed? The motion carries. Congratulations, Mr. Cooper. do have two announcements, or a couple of announcements before we proceed with the remainder of the agenda. The first one is, and I think everybody is aware, that at the next meeting, there will be nominations and election of the pro tem, the Planning and Zoning Committee Chair, the Traffic and Parking Committee Chair, and 2 members to the Audit Committee. And those nominations and elections will take place 2 weeks from today. Additionally, there are vacancies on the Industrial Development Board, and you each have letters on your desk explaining the number of vacancies and how that election process will proceed. And if you have any questions about that, please feel free to contact me or the council office during the remaining 2 weeks. With that, we will move to the consent agenda. The following resolutions are on the consent agenda. Please let me know if any of them should be removed. RS 2015 1 through 14, RS 2015-15, and RS 2015-17. Does any council member seek to have any of those resolutions removed from the consent agenda? So on the consent agenda are resolution number RS 2015-1, a resolution that approves an amendment to a grant of the Davidson County Mental Health and Veterans Court Assistance Foundation to the Davidson County General Sessions Court to fund a Veterans Court for eligible veteran defendants for evaluations and treatment. RS 2015-2 approves a grant from the Davidson County Mental Health and Veterans Court Assistance Foundation to Davidson County General Sessions Court to fund a Veterans Court for eligible veteran defendants to receive assessment and orientation, stabilization, rehabilitation, and aftercare. RS 2015-3 approves an application for the 2015 Homeland Security's grant from the Tennessee Emergency Management Agency to the Office of Emergency Management for security preparedness activities. RS 2015-4 approves the Edward Byrne Memorial Justice Assistance Grant from the United States Department of Justice to the Metro Nashville Police Department for technology upgrades, supplies for direct support to basic police in-service and specialized training. RS 2015-5 approves an amendment to a grant from the U.S. EPA to the Metro Board of Health to fund an ongoing program to achieve established ambient air standards and protect human health. RS 2015-6 approves 3 member facility agreements between the Metro Board of Health and the Minnesota Multi-State Contracting Alliance for Pharmacy to purchase vaccines at discounted rate. RS 2015-7 approves a Tennessee Cooperative Agreement to benefit homeless individuals grant from the State Department of Mental Health and Substance Abuse Services to the Metro Social Services Commission to enhance the infrastructure and treatment service systems. RS 2015-8 appropriates $250,000 to Oasis Center Incorporated to provide college access services for the Nashville Scholars Program. RS 2015-9 approves a grant from the Keep America Beautiful /UPS Foundation to Metro Nashville Public Works Department to reduce levels of carbon dioxide and greenhouse gas emissions through the strategic planting of trees. RS 2015-10 approves an application for the 2016 Severe Repetitive Loss Buyout Project Grant from the Tennessee Emergency Management Agency to Metro. RS 2015-11 authorizes Spoons LLC DBA The Farmhouse to construct and install an aerial encroachment at 210 Almond Street. RS 2015-12 authorizes the Department of Law to compromise and settle the personal injury claim of Heath Haynes against Metro government in the amount of $19,000. RS 2015-14 approves the election of notaries public for Davidson County. RS 2015-15 recognizes Richard Benson, owner of Benson's Market, Hermitage, Tennessee, on the occasion of his retirement. RS 2015-17 recognizes World Stroke Day as October 29th, 2015. Committee reports. Councilman Pridemore. Going to take me a minute to catch on.
Understand. Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. RS 2015-1, RS 2015-2, the Budget and Finance Committee voted 10-4-0 against. On RS 2015-3, 2015-4, -5, and -6, Budget and Finance voted 12-4-0 against. RS 2015-7, -8, -9, 10, and 12, Budget and Finance Committee voted 13-4 and 0 against.
Thank you. Council Lady Gilmore.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Health, Hospitals, and Social Services Committee voted on Resolution 2015-5, 4 in favor of, 0 against, and is recommended. Resolution 2015-6, 6-4, 0 against, and it was recommended. Resolution 2015-7, 6-4, 0 against, and once again, it was recommended. This concludes the Health and Hospitals Committee report.
Thank you, Council Lady. Council Lady Henderson.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. The Parks, Library, and Recreation Committee voted on Resolution RS 2015-8, 10-4, 0 against.
Thank you, Council Lady. Councilman Pardue.
Thank you, sir. RS 2015-3 and -4 was considered by Public Safety and approved 7-0 on both bills.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Elrod.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. The Public Works Committee had resolutions RS 2015-9, -10, -11, and all were approved, 9-4, 0 against.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Shulman.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. The Rules Committee approved 8-0 resolution number RS 2015-15 and resolution number RS 2015-17, and I would move passage on all these matters on the consent agenda.
And 14, I think you have the notaries as well.
And I have the notaries as well. The Rules Committee approved 2015-14, 8-0 as well.
And is there a second? All those in favor? Any opposed? The consent agenda is adopted. That brings us back to Resolution RS 2015-13. Authorizes the Department of Law to compromise and settle the wrongful death claims of Catherine Neitlinger as the next of kin of decedent Michael David Jones against Metropolitan Government in the amount of $150,000. Councilman Pridemore.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. RS 2015-13, Budget and Finance Committee voted 12-4, 1 against, and the purpose of the one nay vote was we had a quite lengthy discussion about this in Budget and Finance, and I think there just wanted to be some brought forward to the entire full council.
Is there a motion?
I move for approval, and I'd like for Mr. Cooper to be the first one to his first case to explain, since it came from the Law Department.
I'm not sure Mr. Cooper was counting on that.
Thank you, Councilman Pridemore. This is a wrongful death matter that was the result of a man who had been arrested. He was intoxicated and was belligerent. The police department had difficulty restraining him. He was taken to booking at the Criminal Justice Center. He continued to be belligerent and defiant. He had to be pepper sprayed. They placed him in leg restraints and he threatened or indicated that he was going to spit on the correctional officers. So they placed a spit hood over his head. He was put into a seclusion cell, and they checked on him a few minutes after placing him in there. He said he was having trouble breathing. They adjusted the spit hood, checked a few minutes later. He appeared okay, and then after another couple minutes passed, they noticed that he was not moving. They entered the cell and realized that he was non-responsive. When they took the spit hood off, vomit spilled out. They tried to resuscitate him, were unable to do so. He was transported to General Hospital and was pronounced dead a couple of hours later. So Metro was sued, wrongful death action. The allegation was that Metro was negligent in its handling of the prisoner and its use of the spit hood. The spit hood had a warning on it that said it was not to be used by someone who was having trouble breathing or who was and was not supposed to be used on someone who was in seclusion, left alone, not supervised. Those warnings were not followed. In addition, the officers did not video the use of the spit hood, as was part of their policy to do so. They also didn't obtain supervisor approval before using it, and left him unsupervised in the cell. So the Department of Law believes that this settlement for $150,000 is in the best interest of Metro and the decedent's family, and we've recommended approval.
Thank you, Ms. Cooper, for your first official act. I appreciate that, and with that, I move for approval.
All right, we have some additional speakers, so Councilman Mendez.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. I was the one who voted no at the Budget and Finance Committee, and as Councilmember Pridemore indicated, it was really just to make sure that something of this magnitude was discussed by the entire council. I know we all appreciate what the Sheriff's Office does, but when a tragic situation like this happens and somebody dies in custody, I think that we should make sure we talk about it. The Budget and Finance Committee asked what measures were being taken to make sure similar situations didn't happen again, and we heard that the Sheriff's Department had adopted a new spit shield product. However, I think that probably as a group yesterday, we didn't ask enough follow-up questions about what had been done to address the shortcomings in following policies and procedures that have been established. I trust that the Sheriff's Department is going to address that also. I do feel that the settlement is reasonable, but it is important that we have a public discussion about making sure the policies and procedures are followed. Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor.
Councilman Pardue.
Yes, sir. Mr. Vice Mayor, I want to be recorded as abstaining on this vote. Shortly after this kid passed away, his family notified me, and I helped them negotiate through the Sheriff's Department. So I'd like to abstain, but I would also like to say that this $150,000 is probably about half of what they could have got if we go to court. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Bedney.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I wanted to second what Councilman Mendez said. I'm very curious to learn more about what are we doing to prevent this from happening in the future, to make sure that that hood wasn't used as a form of punishment in the jail. So if we could invite the sheriff to come to the council or to the next meeting and explain what policies are going to be changed to address this, or to send somebody to explain what changes are going to be made to prevent this type of thing from happening again. I don't know what will be the proper procedure to request that. I guess a question for the lawyer.
Mr. Jones and I were consulting about another matter, so I apologize, Councilman Bedney.
I just wanted to make sure we have some follow-up because, as we know, the sheriff is an independent entity, which is great, but we are responsible as well, and I just want to make sure that we see what changes in the policy are being done to prevent this hood from being used as punishment and as to prevent further deaths, and also to make sure that the people that work at the jail are safe, which is, we want them to be safe. So thank you.
Yeah, and I know there are representatives from the Sheriff's Department here, and you could consult with them after the meeting, and if not satisfied, then bring it to the attention of the council office, and they'd be glad to assist you in taking whatever steps you need to take.
Yeah, I was hoping that could be done on the record, not if that is possible, maybe on committee. Thank you.
Councilman Glover?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I did speak with the sheriff yesterday, and I certainly don't want to speak on his behalf, but he has put into place policies to try and make sure this never happens again. And I think it's a good idea, Councilman Bednay, that maybe the sheriff or the sheriff's department is able to speak with each one of the council members. But I feel certain that the sheriff is certainly not happy about it, and there was an oversight and some things occurred as will happen. But the sheriff, I think, is very aware of what took place and is taking the measures and the steps necessary to ensure that it doesn't happen again. Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you. Council Lady Gilmore?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. My question is a procedural one. Normally, if council members have questions or concerns, isn't there a way that they can request a letter or some type of follow-up? And I was hoping Attorney Don Jones could answer that, please.
Typically, once the matter is handled by the council, it's over. We do send occasionally a request of council members letters as a result of these. This is an issue and needs their attention. We will be glad to do that, and we do quite often. We also typically remind them to be sure to attend committee meetings and council meetings when such matters before the council to be available to council members.
Any further discussion? Council Lady?
Thank you, Vice Mayor. So I wanted to see if Councilmember Bednay was requesting that there be some type of letter follow-up to the council as to what policies and procedures. Myself and Councilmember Mendez attended the committee meeting yesterday, and I felt there was a lot of good information, but I was still not clear as to what policies happened. And I share this because some years ago, when I first became on council, we actually voted against was something called Teen Challenge, and it was actually, they were not pleased with the way that we voted at the federal government, and we got sued, and we had to have training because of that. And it wasn't necessarily it was anyone's fault. We just wanted to see some type of training, and I didn't hear that. I heard about the spit hood and them adopting a new type, so I was concerned just about the training, and not necessarily that it's anyone's fault, because they said they did not find fault with any of the members, but just wanted to know about training since there is a lawsuit.
I think the sheriff has a representative here, and hopefully they were listening to your comments, Council Lady. Any further discussion? Without, my screen just became changed up here. So without any further discussion, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Councilman Pardo, you'll be marked as abstaining on that matter. That brings us to bills on introduction and first reading. I do believe, I'm sorry. Resolution RS 2015-16 honors the life of Marshall I. Carr, noted Nashville businessman and philanthropist. Council Lady Weiner. Hold on. I'll figure it out.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I appreciate it. In short, for those of you who didn't have an opportunity to know Marshall Carr, he was quite the man. Marshall was a philanthropist and an entrepreneur in Nashville here for years and years. There are not many people in this community whose lives he did not touch, and I have been asked by several members of the community if to honor him and the fact that he was taken much, much, much too soon and too suddenly from us, if we could honor him in this way for his family. And so with the greatest sympathy and love for this family and for the memory of Marshall, I ask your support and I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Council Lady. Councilman Mendez.
Mr. Vice Mayor, I just need to be marked as abstaining on this one.
All right. Council Lady Weiner, we missed our committee report.
Committee report, please.
Thank you, Mr. Vice Mayor. Rules approved 7-4, 0 against, and 1 abstention.
Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Aye. Those opposed? Councilman Mendez, you'll be marked as abstaining. That does bring us to bills on introduction and first reading. If there's no objection, we will consider all these bills on first reading in one vote. Prior to doing that, I believe, Council Lady Allen, you have a substitute to a zoning bill.
I'd like to move the substitute, please. Would you like a brief explanation?
I would not, unless you would like to give one, we don't need a brief explanation.
Okay, no, then I would just like move the substitute.
Any discussion? All those in favor? All those opposed? All right. That was for ordinance 2015-25. Sure. Mr. Jones is going to, and before I ask Mr. Jones to explain that, let me say this. I should have introduced him at the outset of the meeting for those new members who are here. This is Mr. Don Jones. He is still special counsel to the Metropolitan Council and served with, I had the honor to serve with him when I was here from 99 to 2007. So it's a pleasure to be back with him.
This substitute was necessary in order to appropriately advertise the bill as it's going to be amended. What it does essentially is add some criteria for mezzanine specifications, and this is quite detailed in the UDO, and that was beyond the original scope of the bill. So we substituted it so when you adopt it on first reading, which is what we advertise, the public will know. All that will be disclosed. It just includes the mezzanine sections.
Is there a motion to approve bills on first reading? Is there a second? All those in favor? Opposed? Bills on introduction and first reading are adopted. Is there any other business before come before the council tonight? Is there a motion to adjourn? One moment. And it takes me a while to see these. Councilman Kendall. Yes, Councilman Kendall. You're on.
I just want to take the opportunity to introduce a guest here tonight. Happens to be in my district, District 21, the president of Meharry, Dr. James Hildreth. And I think he has with him all the deans, Dean of the Medical School, Dean of the Dental School, and Dean of Research. Is that correct? But I just want to recognize him and say that...
Thank you. Thank you,
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Kendall. As you can tell, I am trying to read from the script, and that did not, even though I promised you I would do that, it did not make it onto my script. And I think we'd be remiss if we did not acknowledge our former colleague here, Councilman Lawrence Hall, who was served with me from 1999 to 2007. We didn't make it out as quick as some other meetings, but that's only 45 minutes. So all those in favor of adjourning? Opposed? Thank you, guys.